A History of Southern Missouri and Northern Arkansas by William Monks, published in 1907. The Ku Klux, Part 6, Number 58. When the Union men learned that an attempt had been made by these would-be assassins to assassinate me, about 250 of them headed by such men as J. F. Riley, Esau Fox, Andrew V. Tabor, David B. Nicholas, John B. Nicholas, Josiah Carrico, Charles Long, J. Youngblood, and George Youngblood, rode into town well armed and publicly notified these assassins and those who were aiding and abetting them that if another attempt was made to assassinate Colonel Monks, or if they did assassinate him, it would take 10 of their leaders to pay the debt, and they knew just who they were. On an investigation, it was proven that on the night before they attempted the assassination, about 10 or 12 of these would-be assassins met together in the town of West Plains, and one of their leaders set out, among other causes, why Colonel Monks would have to be killed. That they had tried to scare him away from the country, but found they couldn't scare him, and the only way to keep the Republican Party from going into power again in this county was to kill Colonel Monks. Some of the men that were present were hired to do the shooting next morning and pay the money. They drank a health to each other on the death of Colonel Monks next morning. The man who advised and instructed them and paid them a part of the money is still living in Howell County. This failure in their attempt to assassinate me and the action taken by the loyal men appeared to put a quietus on their idea of assassination. If they ever made any further effort, the writer never learned about it. They had been defeated in every attempt made, either to slander or murder me. I want to say here that I shall ever hold sacred the memory of Mrs. McCowan, for I owe to her the preservation of my life, and may God's blessing ever follow her and rest upon her. The bushwhackers and the Ku Klux element were not yet satisfied and had but one way to vent their spleen against me. That was to get right down to hard lying. Having failed to prove a single one of their charges against me in the courts, they were bent on injuring me and damaging my character. With no regard for the truth, they would go around secretly and tell strangers who knew nothing about me that I was a murderer and a thief. A better element among those who had been Confederates declared openly that these statements were false from beginning to end. Many of them have said that I was an honest man and that if anyone wished to employ an honest lawyer, Monks was the man to go to, for no one could buy him. Sometimes I would be informed that a late Confederate would say, I believe Colonel Monks was a good man and an honest one, but I dislike him because he fought us so hard during the war. I would reply, tell him that I couldn't please them in any way at the commencement of the war. I didn't want to take up arms. I was an unconditional Union man, and they, the rebels, came to my home and arrested me, took me into their command, and swore that I should fight, that they would make me fight, and attempted to force me into the Confederate lines. And when I found that nothing else would do them but to fight, and I went to fighting, then they turned about and cursed me for fighting. Again, I would be informed that some of those persons, who had no regard for the truth, would secretly charge me with being a murderer. In reply, I would inform them that every part of the country where I had performed military service was now in the control of the Democratic Party, and there was no limitation to the crime of murder.